April 2185 was thought to have been one of the best months in the war's history. We had the legendary fight on Popeye 9, DSS upgrades, a second expedition into the gloom, and most importantly, we had stopped the Illuminate from moving the Meridian Singularity while also forcing them out of the galaxy. The Illuminate had been defeated forever once again. To celebrate, our wonderful leaders decided to host a party on Widow's Harbor to celebrate such a triumphant victory. On Celebration Day though, things took a dark turn that would eventually lead to Liberty's darkest days in 100 years. In this video I'll be covering our courageous defense of Super-Earth, the Second Galactic War's greatest success so far. Starting off a little before the fight on May 13th, 2185. This was the day that our citizens were supposed to prosper in the success of kicking the Illuminate out of the galaxy. Instead, the single largest invasion fleet Freedom had ever seen came out of the Meridian Singularity. This so-called Great Host had an initial invasion level of 800, which is 40 million health. There was no stopping it. Defense projections had concluded that Super-Earth was going to be invaded by the Illuminate no matter what. All we could do is damage the fleet and slow it down, which is all we did. Two things of note happened on May 13th. The Helldiver training centers on Mars had been relocated to other undisclosed locations, and more importantly, the DSS had taken fire from Illuminate ships. While still in a functional state, we were advised to keep the DSS off of the planets with the Great Host. For the next 2 days there was a brawl on Widow's Harbor. The planet was lost, and soon after the Illuminate attacked PLNV, the place that previously housed the negative energy laboratory, which had the repulsive gravity field generator which we used to stop Meridia. While the squids were on PLNV, we went against our previous orders and sent the DSS onto the planet, causing it to be immediately engaged upon arrival, leaving it heavily damaged. Thankfully, the crew on the station was able to make an emergency FTL jump to Corel in order to get repairs, which is where it was presumed to be for the rest of the fight. Over the next few days, nothing unexpected happened. PLNV fell to the squid scum, and so did New Haven, giving them complete access to Super-Earth, and thus began. Even before the first bullet was fired on Super-Earth, the Illuminate had already committed atrocities beyond imagining by razing Mars. This once beautiful planet, which had housed our training facilities, now had everything on its surface burnt to a crisp. Even if the training facilities had been moved to another area, Helldivers fleet-wide would still suffer one less reinforcement than usual until the impact could be stabilized. Then they came, in immeasurable numbers, in ships no fleet had ever seen before, and in such a tyrannical matter where they'd leave nothing alive. Super-Earth had come under attack. Freedom had never been under such threat before. Immediately, fleets of left-behind super-destroyers came back online, rushing to save Democracy, even exceeding 200,000, a number we hadn't seen since when the Illuminate first arrived. It was glorious. Even through this rushing wave of fighters, the Illuminate still looked into the sky, targeting our Eagle fighters, and increasing Eagle rearm times by 30 seconds. Even through this, their fleet was falling faster than ever before, giving hope that this floating symbol of tyranny could be destroyed. On day 1, a major order was issued by High Command. Killing 2.5 billion squid was the goal, as it was theorized that if that number was reached, the Great Host would be even more damaged than it was now. The Illuminate wouldn't make this goal easy though. The Illuminate would send attacks to the cities of Remembrance and Equality on Sea, forcing our fleet to split and not be able to properly defend each city. Even so, the Illuminate weren't making any progress, which just shows how truly inferior they are to Democracy. By now, our super destroyers had gained back their one reinforcement, which meant that the squids would be stuck in a stalemate with us, and with their fleet's health rapidly depleting, it was a stalemate we were willing to hold. That's why in their cowardice, they sent all of their forces from Remembrance and Equality on Sea and on to Iglopolis, which is where the attack on Super-Earth started. While this allowed us to make significant ground on both Remembrance and Equality on Sea, it came at a cost. Iglopolis, once renowned for its malls, had been destroyed. the first city to fall during this disgraceful invasion. However, not all was bad. Both reinforcements and eagle rearm timers had returned to how they were normally. The Helldivers, back at full strength, held the two remaining cities, which was when the first major order to kill Illuminate was confirmed to have been a success, removing an additional 10% from their fleet. This would put their fleet at a strength level of 49% by the time the next major order started. The next major order was to extract from 20 million successful missions on Super Earth. While that played out, we had more news to cover that day, as another city, Administrative Center 2, had come under attack by the Illuminate, putting us back in a war on 3 cities, where all of them were losing. This losing war would continue into the next day, where we were on the edge of losing 2 cities, Administrative Center 2 and Remembrance. Our forces were called in this dire situation in order to hold both cities. However, this wasn't enough, as both Administrative Center 2 and Remembrance were lost the very next day. As a result, we both had increased extraction timers by 30 seconds, which was not good for the MO, and increased orbital cooldowns by 60 seconds. During these trying times, Super Earth was forced to initiate Super Defense Protocol Sapphire. These defense protocols would be only used in desperate situations to help Super Earth in its biggest times of need. Sapphire being one of the worst, as it required destroying the last rainforest on Super Earth to replace them with Eagle runways, which decreased Eagle rearm cooldowns by 45 seconds. Even with all of this destruction, the Illuminate, in their unending gluttony for control, sent attacks to York Supreme, again splitting us up. Things were not looking good, and they were only going to get worse. 1 week of war. The Illuminate had desecrated monuments, destroyed our buildings, burnt our flags, and they had taken over 3 cities. Nothing was safe from the tyrannical tentacles, as they had also attacked Port Mercy. We needed something to crush them. Thankfully, the engineers on Carrel would give us the butcher knife up to the task. The DSS was almost ready for activation. However, they lacked the raw material in order to make it. Scrapping 200 million clankers would get them the materials needed to bring the DSS back into the fight. However, this would again split us apart, as a decent amount of the fleet had now gone on to the Automaton front in order to bring the DSS back into action, leaving the Helldivers on Super Earth unable to defend all 3 cities, so they slowly started falling from Democracy's grace into Autocracy's tentacles. Things would only get worse from here, as us being split apart and extraction times being increased, we would be forced to fail the major order. The Illuminate fleet would remain at 24% by the time the next major order was issued, the simplest of the bunch: hold Super Earth. We had 4 mega cities we needed to hold: York Supreme, Port Mercy, Equality on Sea, and our beautiful capital, Prosperity City. We were ordered to hold this to the last man, and also scrap the clankers in order to repair our beautiful station. We had a busy 4 days ahead of us. Let's make sure we did well. Things were not going well. Both York Supreme and Port Mercy were about to fall to the Illuminate. There was nothing we could do to stop them. Port Mercy was the first to fall. A refugee site for Class A+ citizens had been destroyed. With its Super Earth logistics would take a massive beating, decreasing ammo and steams by 50%, and Super Defense Protocol Diamond was activated, which in short said fuck friendly casualties, kill all the enemies you can, and gave us orbital napalm barrage for free. Then York Supreme fell, and with its personal reserves were severely strained, decreasing reinforcements permanently. Super Earth Defense Protocol Ruby was activated, which ignored the Super Earth Destroyer's budget restraints, giving all Helldivers the FRV every mission. Even with this though, things were not looking good. There were only 2 cities, which one of them was losing. Hope was down. We only had a couple of hours from them attacking our capital, Prosperity City. We needed reinforcements we couldn't have. We needed help. The bot divers had done it. The DSS was ready and was also sent to a temporary overdrive state, making a new tactical action. giving us both the passives of Eagle Storm and Orbital Blockade. This new Eagle Blockade was absolutely whooping the Illuminate's ass. In what could only be called a last minute clutch, it had immediately teleported to Super Earth, immediately blasting the Illuminate down with Eagle Strikes, blasting the resistance of Equality on Sea from 7.8% to 3.6%. While also reverting the orbital cooldown increases, the ammo and steam decreases, and the extraction time increases. Hope had been restored. Democracy's heart was beating once again. Time to cut out its infection. The DSS was such a strong counterpush that it allowed us to push the Illuminate presence in Equality on Sea to a small corner of the city, while we couldn't push them off the city. Continuing to contain them to such a small area did massive damage to the fleet. In their most desperate moment, the Illuminate did the most cowardly thing they've done so far: attack our capital, Prosperity City. Immediately they sent most of their remaining forces to our capital. While we lacked both the numbers and the strength to defend both cities, we weren't rapidly losing them, meaning that if we could find a way to damage the Illuminate fleet fast, we could hold both cities. Fortunately, a former satellite technician had developed malware capable of affecting the Illuminate fleet. Long-range satellites on 4 Union were ready to deploy the malware to the Illuminate. However, they were attacked by the Terminids. We needed to defend the planet in order to damage the fleet. While this would leave us spread apart, it was worth it in order to damage the not-so-great host. However, while we were split apart, something horrific happened. The president of Super Earth died, fighting off the Illuminate with a pistol. This loss was unexpected, unneeded, and most definitely unprovoked. While it was one of the worst moments of the battle, it was then followed by the most heroic moment in this planetary fight. 4th Unit had been defended, and the 500 yottabyte zip bomb full of Japanese tentacle hentai had been sent to the Illuminate fleet, dealing 5% damage to the fleet and also significantly decreasing percentages. The fleet was heavily damaged. If there was ever a chance to beat them off our beautiful planet, it would be now. One final push. It was done. The fight was over. We had won. Our beautiful cities destroyed. Our flags burned. Our president dead. Yet even through all these losses, Super Earth was free once more. Furthermore, the Illuminate in their cowardice had left the 3 planets they had taken from us, scorching them while doing so. They are hiding, but we'll find them and we'll kill them all. Democracy's heart was beating once again. Now it was time to find its invaders. We have found them, and we'll kill them all, just not now. In the next video, I'll be talking about what I think would happen if we had lost Super Earth due to one leak, which I'll talk about in that video. I won't talk about it now for spoiler's sake, and also because I think it would be very interesting to see what Joel would do. And as always, final thing before you leave, drink water, eat an apple, talk to your family and subscribe so I can see you in the next one.